You're right guys, please do bear with me on this project. It's a complete fail. It was only ever meant to be a practice. I've got a plan to do some bedroom furniture projects that incorporate a curved corner, and I thought do something simple, something easy, just so I could get to grips with bending plywood. But as you'll see in this video, that didn't go to plan, and I'm hoping that you can learn from my mistakes, but also I'm hoping that you might have some suggestions for me as a better way to go about it, or perhaps even an alternative to achieve the curved corners that I want to. And keep an eye out, because I'm going to be saying the very famous Blue Peter words in this video, something I've always wanted to do, so I hope the video is entertaining at least. Before even starting my main tests, I had success curving some scrap plywood I had lying around. I thought it'd be great to have a go at making some box shelves with the curved corners to test out the process properly. I quickly realised not all plywood is suitable for bending, so after wasting money on a full sheet, I managed to find a small amount of plywood I had from years ago that would actually work. I opted to try curve cutting to bend the plywood. My first mistake was trying to cut all 4 corners on one piece of plywood. It made it too awkward to handle, so I changed it up and just did 2 corners. I thought this would make it much easier and I could always join the 2 halves together later. I know that bent lamination curves have spring back to them, but I didn't expect spring back to occur from curve cuts, so I went ahead and glued up the joints using polyurethane glue and held them at 90 degrees using my right angle jigs. As you can see, there was a lot of spring back, but I thought I could pull them back into shape when gluing the halves together. I opted to create a kind of tongue and groove joint. This joint works really well and it's easy to create with a slot cutting router bit. The tongue was 6mm MDF, nice and simple. I clamped up the pieces to try and get them to line up, but no joy. At this point I thought I'd change tactic with the video and test out an idea I've had for a while now, using papier mache to cover rough plywood and MDF to achieve a smooth surface for painting. In my mind I thought this would be a much quicker and easier option when compared to filling and sanding voids, and also I thought it'd be a lot easier than sealing MDF. Perhaps not. Right, it's time for an experiment. All you're going to need for this experiment is some PVA glue. I've put my PVA glue into an old takeaway container. This one had beef curry in, but it doesn't really need to be beef curry. It could have been chicken korma, it could have been lamb pasanda, could have even been a chow mein, whatever you've got lying around. I've also got some newspaper. This is going to be for the papier mache. I'm using the Chronicle mainly because it's free and who buys a newspaper anymore, but I'm sure any newspaper of your choice will work too. I also need a pair of scissors to cut it into strips, and you're also going to want to put on a shirt that you're not too bothered about getting messy. It doesn't have to be creased like mine. Anything that you got lying around, it'll do the job. Oh yeah, you're also going to need a shelf. So our first job is to cut the newspaper into some strips. Now that we've got some strips, we're going to cut some shorter strips. If you don't really like using scissors, make sure you've got somebody to help you with this bit. Right, we're going to want the lid off the PVA glue, because obviously we can't put the paper through the lid, so we need to take this lid off. Now we've got the glue, and we're going to be working on the corners first. We want to get this curve covered, so it's just a case of taking your newspaper, dipping it in the PVA glue, wipe off any excess, we don't want too much, and then we can apply it to the corner on the shelf. Just like that. It's nice and simple to do. Really easy, and you can reposition them really easily. Yeah, them really easy to reposition if you get them in the wrong place. Dead easy. Just like that. Now you'll want to do the same on all 4 corners, and once you've got that done, it should look a little something like this. And now we need to do the edges on the inside. Now it's just a case of repeating the process until all the inside of the shelf is covered with newspaper. But here is one that I made earlier. All I've got to do is trim off the excess newspaper, and then it can be painted with primer, and then we can get some bright colours put on it. So do keep in mind that it's a very messy procedure. You're going to get covered in PVA glue, but don't worry, it's not toxic at all. It's not toxic, is it? It's not. It's not toxic. You'd be itching by now if it was toxic, so you would know. But just crack on with it, enjoy it, have a mess, have a play about, get it covered with the newspaper, and then as soon as it's dry, we can get moved on and started with the paint. Get some water quick. I really thought the papier mache layers would have blended together a lot better. Instead, there was a big difference in surface level between the layers, so resorting to sanding would mean it's simpler to just fill the voids the traditional way. But I did just want to see how it took paint, so I kept adding layers of white primer, basically until I couldn't see anything about Brexit. I'm going to call it quits here, guys. Usually I'm a strong advocate of push on to the end and you can always make it turn out how you want to, but I think this is past salvageable and I don't really want to be ploughing more money into new plywood. And my original plan was to actually trim this with a walnut edge and cover it with material, but there's no way that I want to waste walnut on this. I've learned what I need to learn. I know that I've done the corners wrong on this, so hopefully moving forward I won't make the same mistakes. And this papier mache is something that I've always wanted to try. It's been in my head for quite a while. I thought that it would work great to cover the edges of MDF if I'm going to paint it, but my memory obviously doesn't serve me so well. I remember papier mache going on much easier, drying much quicker, and also having less of a lip between each layer. If it worked how it worked in my head, I think it would have been a winner, but clearly it didn't. So if for any reason you're ever thinking of, oh, shall I cover plywood with papier mache, take it from me, don't. So I'm hoping that you can learn from the mistakes that I've made, and fingers crossed this video wasn't a complete waste of time, and at the end of the day I managed to say the famous Blue Peter words, so I'm happy. I want to say a massive thank you as always to all my Patreon supporters. Can't thank you enough, guys. It really goes a long way into helping what I do on this channel, and especially when I'm wasting good money on plywood that I can't even use in the project I want to do the video for.